We forgot to do this upstairs, but need to go around the horseshoe for any community-related events or announcements.
I have a couple, Mayor. So this Saturday, the Midwest City High School Key Club is doing breakfast with Santa at the high school. It starts at 9 o'clock. Tickets are on sale for $5 a piece if you're interested. Also, our Fraternal Order of Police is hosting a pancake breakfast to benefit 2 families, including our head animal shelter director, Adrian Sanders' child, and that starts at 8 a.m. I believe it goes until 11 a.m. if I'm not mistaken. Tickets are on sale for that also, and you can see one of the FOP members to purchase those tickets. And then December 3rd, which is a Monday, is the Midwest City Annual Community Needs Meeting at the Harris Community Center. Starts at 6:30, ends at 7:30, and all citizens are invited to come out and attend that as well.
Okay. Any other announcements? Friday night, we open up Storybook Christmas down at Charles Johnson Park down 29th Street. We officiated the official lighting of the city Christmas tree last night. We had about 300 in attendance, and a good time was had by all. We also opened up the lights this last week, right before Thanksgiving. And if you hadn't had a chance to drive through our lights, we established that program in 1995, and it just keeps getting bigger and better every year. So a lot going on in our community, and we've got a couple of food drives going on that we're going to be collecting food and toys and things of that nature for some needy folks in our community. So a lot of that good stuff that will be going on over the next few weeks. So with that being said, again, thank you for being here this evening, and we'll get into our consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. First discussion item.
This is PC 1976, discussion consideration of approval of the preliminary plat of Florence Estates for the property described as a part of the northeast quarter of Section 1, Township 11 North, Range 1 West, located in the 400 block of South Post Road. Mr. Harless?
Yes, sir. Until there's a resolution on the drainage issues with staff and Planning Commission and the consultants and the applicant, staff and Planning Commission would recommend this be tabled until the January 2nd meeting.
Chair to entertain a motion.
Did you say the January 22nd?
January 2nd meeting.
Okay.
It'll be January 2nd meeting for the Planning
For the
Commission.
Planning Commission, but
Yes,
for
sir.
the council, it'll be I think the 22nd? 22nd, okay.
Okay. I have a motion. I have a motion and a second to table. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item.
PC 1982, discussion consideration of approval of the Midtown Office Park Section 2 preliminary plat for the property described as a tract of land lying in the northeast quarter of Section 11 Township 11 North, Range 2 West of the Indian Meridian, City of Midwest City, Oklahoma, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma. Mr. Harless?
Yes, as noted upstairs, this is the preliminary plat, the about 7.083 acres of development. The plat was expired, and so nothing's changed. It meets all the requirements for the preliminary plat, so the Planning Commission and staff recommend approval.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item.
This is discussion consideration of a resolution of the Council of the City of Midwest City, Oklahoma, authorizing the execution of the trust agreement and indenture of the Regional Transportation Authority of Central Oklahoma, RTA. This item was presented to the council at the last meeting. The proposed agreement and trust indenture provided you that document as well as a summary that was prepared by ACOG's consultant, and then also a further summary of the history of the RTA. Staff would recommend approval. We do have representatives from ACOG and the RTA in the audience if you have any additional questions.
Motion to approve. Oh.
I'm sorry?
Are they coming up to the?
No,
podium?
ma'am.
I don't
Okay.
think they'll come
Unless
up
we
if
have
they
any
need to.
specific questions.
Okay, motion to approve it.
I have a motion. Hmm?
It
It's-
is a discussion item.
Does anyone have any issues with the RTA trust indenture? Hearing none, I do have a motion. I have a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
If I might ask, who is, what cities are left to approve the trust indenture? One. The city of Moore. Okay. Well,
When are they supposed to vote?
okay, good.
Thank you
all.
guys for being here. Next discussion item.
This is discussion consideration of establishing a committee to review and make recommendations regarding Midwest City Ordinance, Chapter 8, Animals and Fowls, Section 8-42 through 8-72.
No action.
I think there's been some conversation about the formation of the committee, based upon the conversation from upstairs. I think the suggestion was that we have 3 council members and three.
We have to have an odd number.
Yeah, 3 and then 6, and then a representative from each ward. And so we would continue this item till the next meeting, is that right? So that the council could identify their nomination.
And so I would like to, one point, since we are not going to be able to get a committee sat until probably January with the holidays, we need to put everything back a month, have the recommendations by February, if whatever recommendations they are for us to vote on in March. Yeah, instead of by the end of January.
Well,
Yeah, probably no action.
just no action until we,
The way it's written, it can come back.
So you
to
want to push
say,
it all the
"Well,
way to
can't."
March?
So what we have right now is it's supposed to be completed by the end of January to come to the
I mean,
full council
it
for
didn't really
consideration
say
in
what the
February.
composition.
I don't see, because our next meeting is December 11th, I don't see with the holidays that there's going to be any way to impanel that committee.
No, I agree.
And that if we still have this by the end of January, they don't have time to effectively do what they need to do.
I agree.
So we push this to where they have their findings completed by the end of January to be prepared to present to the full council in consideration in March.
Okay. I see where you're.
I got one
But we do
question.
need the names of the citizens that are going to sit for next council.
By next council meeting.
Correct.
I've got one
So-
question, Mayor.
I'm sorry?
I got one question. Is from the, I've talked to quite a few people. I mean, do we really even feel like this is necessary? I mean, I kind of feel like we're trying to break something that's not broke, or fix something that's not broke, or worrying about some very minor problems. I know personally, I think dog problems are a much bigger problem than a duck problem or a goat problem, and we haven't addressed the dog problem. I mean, we've got a few years ago, we passed an ordinance. The number one problem, they told us, with animal control are barking dogs. Number one problem, that's the number one call. Number one problem, barking dogs. And at the same meeting, the solution was to raise it from 2 dogs to 5 dogs. I mean, and it made no sense. I mean, to this day, you know, if people have horses, you got dogs chasing their horses. If you got cattle, their dogs are chasing the cattle. You got running dogs at large, you know, I've got
So
ducks.
but you have two separate issues there. Dogs and cats and livestock are not the same. If we want to address that, we probably could. Now, one of the reasons that I'm pretty involved in this is my daughter competitively rides. We have 2 horses. Our current, I don't think there's anybody out here, and I've got several people that don't want anything changed, but when I say this, they're like, oh yeah, that probably needs to be changed. As of right now, if you have 10 acres in Midwest City, you can have up to 47 horses on those 10 acres.
Does anyone have 47 horses?
Not yet, but they can.
No,
So,
but
yeah,
why
Jeff, they
why
can.
fix it if it's not broke?
Because it can be broke. And there's been several things. We had a horse that was hit by 2 cars. 2 people went to the hospital. We have some issues that the last time that we looked at this was 1985 or 6. Times have changed a little bit. We've got more traffic. I think it's time to relook. Do we have to change? No, but having a committee to look at this is never a bad idea. Kind of like we're having a committee look at all the other ordinances. And one of your things was you want to make sure that people who are involved in this are on that. Why would we change any of those ordinances? They've been perfectly good for the last 20 years, but you're not opposed to that committee.
Well, I'm opposed to anything, if it's not broke and it doesn't need fixed, why spend the time on it?
Because our animal control department says that there's a need.
No.
They're getting calls.
Animal control's number 1 problem are dogs.
Oh, so that's the
So let's
only
raise
problem
it
that
from
we should
2 to
talk
5.
to. That wasn't before I was even on the council. So, fine, let's say that the previous council sucked. But that doesn't mean that we don't look at issues right now because you're upset with what a previous council did.
No, I'm not, I'm just saying, I think that if we go to this, I really think that the number of dogs need to be looked at, if that's still our number 1 problem. But, I just was trying to make sure there's a consensus that everybody really feels like that we need to do it. It was brought up, and
Well,
I'm fine with it.
Upstairs, you said you wanted to sit on the committee.
It's,
If we're gonna go through it, yeah, I'd like to sit on a committee.
and your wish is granted.
And-
But it's never a bad idea, just to go back and look at ordinances. And I'm not advocating any change at all. But as long as we go back and look at ordinances and make sure that they're meeting the needs of our constituency now rather than 1985. And things have changed. The rural is starting to meet up with the urban, more so than it ever has before in our community. And it may just be an enforcement issue. I've heard from several constituents, a couple that are here tonight, that, just enforce what you got. So, but going over and taking a look at it is never a bad thing, and I'm not advocating change, but whatever the committee comes up with will be fine as well. But it's never a bad thing to go back and look at it. But you will be.
And if the
on
committee says that no changes need to be made, I'm perfectly fine with that.
And we did the same thing with the animal shelter committee. I mean, that was obviously one that came together, and we were able to affect some
And I
changes.
think the gentleman that has the horses off of, just to the east of Carl Allard, he was on the original committee back in the 80s, and he has volunteered to be on this one again. So I think having some institutional memory might not be a bad idea.
Okay, so we're
So-
gonna move to table it to the
So
next
we-
meeting, is that?
There he's,
So, I thought we were gonna table this.
So if it is the desire of the council to expand this a little bit to address dogs, I would recommend that we take no action on this because we're going to need to come back with a somewhat different agenda item since we're going to be expanding into the dog areas, because these sections wouldn't allow us to deal with dogs and cats.
Okay, I'm kind of curious why we don't do it as 2 separate approaches with this. I mean, we can have one focused on large animals for review, and then we can do small animals separately with the ordinance
livestock
review.
deals with both fowl and,
I know, but yet, you can have a targeted review. I mean, you have a targeted problem that you're addressing right now.
but can we, well, but I do have, I have a duck coop that has got some neighbors in my neighborhood not really happy
Uh-huh.
on a 6,000 square foot piece of property. I mean, ducks are cute, but they do have a lot of feathers and a lot of other things, and so it is also an issue on some of our smaller, and I live on a plot that's about 6,000 or 7,000 square feet. And I went out with Adrian one time to measure, just so I kind of got a glimpse of, you only have to be 75 feet from your nearest neighbor, and you can park a duck coop in your backyard. That's kind of close on a 6,000 square foot property.
Okay, so is the upshot of this that we want to pull this in underneath the regular ordinance review that we're talking about under item number 6 then? Because if we're going to table it to look at small animals specifically associated with this project, then why don't we just move it all in under item 6 and it can be the first priority to come out of that ordinance review?
That is two separate.
Let me suggest this.
It's still an ordinance, though.
First off, let me suggest that we table it and we bring it back with the verbiage that includes the dogs and cats, including large animals and fowl. That you come prepared to the next meeting with the names that you're going to have on the committee, and then we'll do it all in one big
I mean,
package. Does that sound agreeable? Again, we table it. We bring it back with the verbiage that was been suggested, so it can be all-inclusive of the large animals, fowl, and dogs and cats. And you come prepared with the names of the citizens you want to place on the committee next
December 11th.
council meeting, and then move forward.
okay. Well,
Does that sound agreeable to everybody?
With the understanding, and I want to echo some of what Jeff said too. I'm not inclined, and I understand where Sean's coming from also, but I'm not inclined to do a shotgun effect for everybody. If there isn't a problem, then I don't think we need to create a problem by putting in some more ordinances. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it may be an enforcement issue. And if that's an enforcement issue, is it because we don't have enough people to enforce it, or the resources aren't available, or whatever? I think that's something that,
Yes, sir.
because I'm an animal lover, and I don't want, I have a donkey in my neighborhood. I hear it. It's kind of like an airplane going over. You get used to it. You hear the airplanes going over. It's cash registers going off in Midwest City. The donkey down the street, you get used to it. And I don't want to, I know I don't have a lot of large animals in my ward, but I know Christine does, Jeff does, she does, and there's a lot of residents that have devoted a lot of time, money, and effort into having their animals that some of them, like me, consider them their kids. I think we just need to be really careful that we don't, if we have an issue with the ducks being too close to the house, we deal with that. The horses that got out that caused the wrecks, we deal with that property owner or the horse's owner. I just think we need to, hopefully, I think we know who's going to be on the committee. We just need, hopefully it's not a shotgun for everybody.
I agree.
I agree with what you said, Pat, and with Jeff. If something is not broken, why are we trying to fix something? I mean, we just need to address the problems at hand that we're having.
But
And-
again, it's never a good idea, it's never a bad idea to go back and take a look and make sure that we're doing everything right.
So there is a possibility they could come back and say, what we've got is good. We just need to.
And I'm perfectly fine with that.
So with that being said, I would entertain a motion to table and bring it back. with the
Motion to
verbiage.
table?
Second.
I'm going to motion in a second.
Okay.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. What's your suggestion?
Oh, yeah, no action, because if we table it, it has to come back the exact same way it is. So
Okay.
can I rescind
Point well
my-
taken. So we're going to take no action,
No action.
take back the vote, and we'll go back to the next item.
No action.
Parliamentary procedure gets rather confusing when you got 6 or 7 bosses up here, so.
Or just one.
I finally figured that out. Next discussion item.
This is discussion consideration, one, establishing an ad hoc general obligation bond oversight council committee, and two, appointing 3 members of the city council.
As discussed upstairs, I would entertain a motion to, well, take no action, correct? Take no action. So we'll take no action on this particular discussion item. And next discussion item.
Discussion consideration of establishing an ad hoc council oversight council committee to oversee ordinance updates and to appoint 3 committee members of the city council.
Once again, we'll take no action on this particular item. We'll bring it back for consideration later on the first of the year.
So-
Ladies, go ahead.
No,
I'm
I'm sorry. I was jumping the gun.
Ladies and gentlemen, we move into the public discussion, new business of our agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council? Please keep in mind, if it's not an agenda item, we cannot address it from the horseshoe at this time. With that being said, or hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to recess.
Motion to recess?
Have a second? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. I call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all the trustees or the members of the audience wish to discuss an item, be pulled or removed and heard in regular order.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we move into our new business public discussion of the Midwest City Municipal Authority agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we're hereby adjourned. I call to order the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. We have 2 discussion items on this agenda.
First item is discussion consideration of approving the minutes of the staff briefing and regular meeting of the, sorry, my thing is not
November
full.
13th.
Of the November 13th, 2018 meeting.
Move to approve.
Yes. Motion. We need a motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item.
This is discussion consideration of action to reallocate assets, change fund managers, or make changes in statement of investment policy, guidelines, and objectives. No action is necessary on this item.
That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we move into the new business public discussion for the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned. Chair to entertain a motion to reconvene on the Midwest City Council.
Motion to reconvene.
And we have 2 executive, I'm sorry.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion
We're
to,
hereby reconvene.
motion to,
Let me read these if you don't, okay? Discussion, we have 2 executive session items. Discussion consideration of 1, entering into executive session as allowed under 25 OS Section 307B4 to discuss Barini et al. Versus City of Midwest City, case number CV-2018-2374, and also discussion and consideration of entering into executive session as allowed under 25 OS Section 307B4 to be briefed on potential litigation.
Move to go into executive section?
I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be moving into executive session at this time, and we will not be back into council chambers. Thank you for being here.